Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Rehab with Ronnie podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot to me. Seriously, you guys are so cool for listening. I love you for that. Today's guest is JT Doscher. He is a pediatric physical therapist, and honestly, I was super stoked to have him on because I haven't had a pediatric PT on yet. And I do feel as if, for me at least, pediatric PT, that class feels like eons ago. And I think I learned a lot while I took the class, and then I brain dumped it on the boards exam and never thought about it again. And now, being a new mom, I wanted to have him on just to talk all things pediatric PT, ways that we can intervene, things that we should be looking for, how we can be more interactive with our kids. I learned a lot with the episode. JT's an awesome guy, super likable, high energy, good vibes, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. So, without further ado, here's JT. JT, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, to get started, how did you get into pediatric PT?
Okay. PT in general, always wanted to do it. I liked the intersection of, honestly, you probably hear this from most people that go into PT, but like the sports science kind of crossover, right? Like played sports a lot growing up and always liked that component. I honestly knew I didn't really want to go to medical school and things like that. But growing up, always had I always felt like this draw to like work with children. I liked to babysit. I liked to do different things with younger children. My youngest brother, I have two brothers. One is 2 years, the other one is 10. So Drew, when he was growing up, I kind of always felt like I would help him out like more than, my Matt. So that plus the babysitting and all that kind of spurned me into always wanting to work with children. And when you go into PT school, you think, okay, there's all these different routes. Maybe you're interested in ortho, neuro, whatever. I immediately took to pediatric PT and in the class. I loved my teacher, JPN and Dr. Doyle. And I just thought that, oh, this is like really interesting. You can do a lot of the orthopedic, the neuro stuff, but now you have to make it fun and you have to bring it to the child level. And pediatric PT is, 0 to 18. So you're working with so many different diagnoses, different ages, all that. And I really liked the critical thinking when I was in school doing it. So the intersection of now, obviously, me being in PT school and loving that with my affinity to work with children, it just seemed like a total fit. That was my favorite class. So I was like, okay, I wanted to get a pediatric rotation coming out of school, or not coming out of school, in my latter part of school, did that, loved it even more, learned a ton. And I just said, this is for me. And unfortunately, coming out of school, pediatric opportunities are few and far between because if you are a pediatric therapist, you don't usually leave. So there's just not as many opportunities. It's not as bountiful. So I went into ortho. About 7 months in, a job opened up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and it was kind of a half and half, like part ortho, part peds. And I ran from it from there. And then once I jumped into that, then I've just been straight pediatric since and have spurned into multiple different jobs. But it's been super rewarding. I love pediatric physical therapy.
I think that makes you unique because, and this might just be my own personal experience and not yours,
Please.
but in my pediatric class, the people that were geared more towards wanting to have a pediatric PT job when they graduated were female.
Mhm.
So I think you being a male in this space makes you kind of unique.
You're not wrong at all. I will tell you that in my job at Children's Specialized Hospital, there is one other male PT, but for a while it was like one in, one out. There was only ever one, and the speech therapy is one, and OT is one, and he's the director. So when you then take the 30 other employees, they're all female in that, and it's like, yeah, you're very much a unicorn in the space, and it is mostly female. I just think that they gravitate towards that. Like it works a little bit more, right? If you're female, you're spending more of the time with the young children. A lot of times people think pediatric PT, they think the babies and things like that. But yes, I have been told and have found that being a unicorn in the space is rewarding, very cool, gives me a little bit of an edge sometimes. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I do think it gives you a little bit of an edge. Do you think that you have any advantages being sort of the minority in the profession in that regard?
So yes, and then also no. Not Let me answer the no part first for 1 second, just because I think it's going to make more sense. So when I was younger, did not have kids myself and was starting out in a career, I had less confidence overall, which I think is not atypical for any new grad physical therapist. But sometimes when you're giving the home exercise program and the educational component, you are broaching into parental advice and things like that, and you try to stay away from it, but a lot of times it's things like working on tummy time and educating parents on like what's a typical level of fuss for a baby, like how much can we kind of tolerate. And when I didn't have that experience that I do now, it was harder for me then to educate the parents. And then on top of that, I did feel sometimes, it was not with most clients, it was every once in a while, that because I wasn't female, I didn't have that quote unquote mother's instinct. And it came through a little more earlier. I think now I carry myself with a level of confidence that I either am not phased by it or it doesn't come through anymore just because of my experience. But early on, I definitely felt that. Then from an edge perspective, I do think that some people just, if they're young, they want to work with a female, totally fine. But there are sometimes the young male population has difficulty opening up and working with females. I can distinctly think of 3 to 4 children with brain injuries who were like boys from the age of 6 to like 10 and immediately took to me, had previous therapists, and it was just like, no, you know what? It's a big brother that now I'm hanging out with and like honestly playing with and having fun with games. And I think that gives me an edge because I think a lot of times parents want that type of leadership. It's hard because obviously everyone can be really good at what they're doing, male, female,
Of
whatever.
course.
But there is a little bit of that edge, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, I kind of want my son to just be hanging out, and if he opens up more, if he does more, it's easier for them to relate. So that it does provide me a little bit of an edge. And you'll hear, sometimes everyone has. I go back to the hospital. I've worked in a lot of different places, but the hospital is where I had the most where I have the most coworkers, and everyone has their little niche. And sometimes if there is just like, oh, I have a young male, I want to pair them with a young male, not young male, a male therapist. It gives me an edge. Totally.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I could see why it would be more motivating if you have a patient that's a little bit older in the pediatric space, like you said, the 6 to 10
Yes.
range. They're going to idolize you maybe a little bit more rather than having the female therapist that maybe makes them think of the relationship with their mom and maybe they don't want to listen. And so, yeah, I think that makes sense. Now you have
Totally agree.
2 kids, correct?
Yes.
How
Yes, I
old are
do.
they?
Theo turns 1 on the 12th of November. 1, 2, geez. He turns 2 on November 12th, and then Margot is 4.5 months. So we have the 2 under 2.
How's that going?
It's honestly pretty great. We are very lucky that we have 2 really easygoing kids for the most part. Everyone has some of their challenges. Theo took to having a little sister amazingly. He's honestly obsessed with her and will
Oh, that's
come
so
over
cute.
and give her kisses and stuff, and then sometimes gives her the people's elbow. And I'm like, dude, you can't really do that. She's 4 months old, buddy. Like you can't just jump on her. But there's nobody. I have never seen anybody more resilient than a 4-month-old with an older brother. And I've talked to like some of my friends, and they're like, if you have a daughter and they have an older brother that's close in age, they're just like Margot's very go with the flow. Like Theo will flip her because he sees me rolling her and does that, and he just like, whoop, whoop. So it's a lot of fun. It's hard work. Recently I just did a solo parenting weekend because Amy went to go visit our sister-in-law is pregnant and having a baby soon, and she had her baby shower in Charleston, and I did the solo parenting weekend with the kids, and they were great. It's the sleep thing is a challenge, but I personally hated with my first and my second that when you're telling people that you're pregnant and going into it, I hated that the first comment out of most people's mouths was, "Well, get your sleep in now or do the things." And I don't know if you experienced some
Oh,
of these
yes,
things
of
as well.
course, of course.
It's so draining. It's like most of the time you're probably getting pregnant on purpose if you're married and like you're ready to start a family. It's like you're going into that knowing that you're going to be lacking of sleep. Let's focus on the positive things. That's the biggest downside. It's hard sometimes, the newborn doesn't sleep great and then the toddler wakes you up at 6:30 in the morning and you just kind of got to go.
Right.
But if you focus on the good stuff, it's honestly, we have, no complaints because we did this and we wanted this and we are enjoying the relationship that they're forming as much as anything. And that makes every possible downside there is totally worth it. So it's honestly just been a ton of fun. I'm
Good.
sure it'll be interesting when my wife goes back to work and we don't have everybody home and we're starting to get into that routine. That will obviously present some challenges naturally, but we're just really loving parenthood. I think this is my favorite part, like my favorite chapter of life so far. I've loved being
Everybody
a
says
dad.
that. I love
Everyone
that.
says it. It's so great. It's
Yeah.
so great. I know Gemma's younger, but I think the coolest part is like seeing your kids experience stuff for the first time that you probably experienced, and like seeing that joy. It makes you realize some of the simple things that are so awesome. And I know a ton of people say this isn't novel necessarily, but that's the I think the coolest part about being a parent.
Yeah, and I think everybody says it because everybody experiences it, It's
Right.
sure it's
Right.
cliche, but cliches, they exist for a reason. But yeah,
Exactly.
the notion that you can catch up on sleep before you have your baby is hilarious to me. I'm like, "Oh, I wish it worked that way." Also, one little known fact, or maybe people just don't talk about it enough, but I don't know if your wife experienced this, but basically the second that I found out I was pregnant, for the rest of that pregnancy, I didn't sleep well because you're up all the time.
Okay.
Like you're just
Yeah.
not sleeping well anyways. And I think it's the body's way of preparing you for what's to come. So yeah, I mean, there was no catching up on sleep while I was pregnant. I didn't sleep well
No.
before I was pregnant, and I'm not sleeping well
Okay.
now, and it's okay.
That's totally okay. You get used to it. Astute observation. She has said that she thinks the third trimester sleep is worse than the newborn sleep because you're uncomfortable. You're constantly
100%.
having to shift. You have the belly and like it's a lot.
You're peeing 10
And
times a night. Yeah, it's
right.
it's no fun.
Yeah. No.
So now you've got two. How
Yes.
has fatherhood, if at all, change your practice and the way that you approach just pediatric physical therapy?
Oh, such a great question.
Oh, and then I guess you can reverse it too. Like, how has your experience with PT shaped how you approach being a parent to your kids because they're going through those developmental milestones?
Great.
That's a heavy question. So we can
No, it's
comb through it.
that's awesome. If I can, I'll actually answer the second part first while I think
Sure.
on the first. So I think by being a pediatric physical therapist, it prepared me more to be a dad than most other lines of work are going to prepare you to be a dad. If you work with children for your job, you don't go through the parenting component, but you're very comfortable with children. Many times new parents are not comfortable handling a newborn. I have been handling newborns forever. So that's a leg up. Like it helps that I have that experience to lean on. And it's really great knowing how to facilitate milestones and be supportive and do all of those things. Like I'm using my education and my experience every day with my children, and I am helping Amy learn some things that like this is how you can facilitate this movement or this is how you can support here. And I think it is super helpful to have that background to lean on it because nothing can prepare you for being a parent because it is different. You are with them all the time and it's not the same as your hour session with your kid and here you go back to mom and dad. But it totally prepared me, and a lot of my page is about informing and educating parents that if you consistently are playing with your child, which most of us are doing anyway, and if you do it with this technique or this move or this something, you're actually facilitating milestones and development more than you could ever realize. And so many of the negative comments are, you're forcing them to do this, you're forcing them to do that. It's not the case at all. Facilitating is very different than forcing. And being able to have that education to know, okay, this is typical, this is not, we're going to do this. Oh, if he's responding like that on like let's say Margot's getting her hands stuck underneath her when she's trying to roll, I'm like, okay, I have three different ways I know how to get her out of that. So it's very helpful to have that background. And then honestly, being in the space, I'm finding this out a little bit more with Margot than Theo because Theo, I was starting the page and I started it delayed after him to build content. Now I have a network of people and friends. I always had speech and OT and different things like that, but you have this cool Instagram network now where you can reach out and ask questions, which I think is, obviously why we kind of do what we do and provide information to others. But it's also nice for being in the field. If I just like message one of my friends and I'm like, hey, is this kind of like typical or not? And I just feel like being in that field, it's so easy to just ask those questions or parenthood advice, different things like that. We recently just got, some tips to help Margot a little bit more with her sleep. Awesome. Now, how has parenthood kind of changed I don't think parenthood has changed my treatment style.
I could imagine that it would maybe make you a little more empathetic or just
Yes.
Right? Like, you're putting yourself really in their shoes rather than being a great peds PT who is working in the space but doesn't have kids yet. Now you have kids,
Right.
it hits home a little bit more, I could
It hits
picture.
home a little bit more thinking about the day in, day out stuff that, the empathy is probably a little bit more. I care for all of my people that I
Of
work with.
course, of course.
When we have more neurologically impaired, medically impaired kiddos, that is where that stuff comes out. And I think about the moments that I've had with my children, and it makes me more emotional to think that that family might not have had those same moments with their children due to whatever medical challenges they might be going with and why they're seeing me for physical therapy.
I don't wanna get
And
emotional on the podcast.
sorry about that. But yeah, that I think, right, it doesn't change my treatment style. It changes how I'm communicating with the families. And I think that as we all get older, gain more life experience in general, we're more savvy at navigating situations that now we've been in before and things like that. So being able to build, I think my rapport, which was always good because I feel like I'm a personable person, I can talk everyone's ear off. I think the being able to connect with parents as a parent changes my rapport, and it's changed the relationship that I have with my people as much more so than any treatment style.
Mm.
I do think that on the flip side, if I had a child with neurological deficits or with physical deficits or with something like if I had a child with CP or a child with Down syndrome and I worked with, and now I'm feeling all of that stuff because there are honestly a ton of therapists. I shouldn't say a ton. There's a there's people that have children with, deficits themselves or challenges or physiological things that they've learned now techniques that they can then bring over to their patients. I do think that very much exists. I think about OTs and maybe they have a child that's on the spectrum themselves, and then they're bringing some of those same techniques that they use for their child at home, and maybe it works for their people, maybe it doesn't work for their patients and things like that. So I just think to answer your question, which was again awesome and loaded, it has changed my ability to connect with parents more, which in pediatric physical therapy, depending on the age of the child you're working with, it's actually much more the most challenging part of the job is to work with the parents,
I have heard that
because
before, yes.
it's challenging. Um, but that's also probably the most not the most important, but one of the most important parts of being the therapist to this child is to be able to connect with the family and do those things. So
Right,
anything
because how
that's
are you
going to give
going
you
to
yes,
ensure that they're gonna be implementing these interventions at home? Like, the kid's
100%.
not gonna follow a six-month-old baby isn't going to be making
Nope.
sure that they're hitting their milestones and doing the
Right.
things to facilitate rolling, like, that's the parent. So, of course, nurturing that
100%.
relationship is paramount, I can imagine.
Absolutely. And then you wind up, honestly, we get close to our families a lot, especially long time families. I'll get pictures from families still of like a baby I treated and it's like their 6-year-old birthday. I'm like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
please stop. You're aging me. This is crazy." Yeah, so and I think now being a dad, just being able to go through that more, the first time I was at um children specialized, and when I was full time and then I went back per diem most recently, I was not a father, now am a father. The relationships were different. The relationships were totally different.
yeah.
Both great, but just different.
So how are your days different now work-wise? Because before you mentioned, before we started recording, that
Yes.
you're now kinda taking away the working in the hospital day
Yes.
and kinda staying at home with the kids, but then also doing your own thing. So what's your day gonna start looking like now?
Early wake up, 4 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do my stuff. I recently saw something that was like, if I am going to make myself better, I'm not going to take time away from my kids. I'll take time away from myself. And either when I wake up in the morning, I'm either creating content or I'm probably working out, trying to do that and get that in before the kids wake up because it helps me be better present to them. It helps me be more present to them. And I would rather deprive my sleep than be trying to make a post when my children are awake and I'm now being pulled away from them and generated content. That's not cool. Like that's not why I'm doing what I do. I want to be active in their life, not active on that. So I will get up early, try to get what I can done, email, all that fun stuff, and then hang with the kids. I'm going to try to create some structure for Theo because we are taking him out of daycare and he does like the structure. He mentioned circle time yesterday, so I'm going to try to include some of those things, do
Circle
arts and crafts.
time.
We will be going to the playground probably every day, rain or shine, because it's the best thing you can do for toddlers and children, just to take them to a place to get out energy, learn their body, all that fun stuff. So we'll definitely be going there. We recently enrolled in some classes at there's a place called Kids Empire by us. It's like a massive indoor playground. It's sick, so we'll go there if it's like really bad. So we'll work that in, go for some walks. I'll try to schedule some of my consultations during nap time or before or after the kids are awake, more than likely later at night to do some of those things. But I definitely will be taking a little bit of a step back on the consults and doing them on the weekends as well, my virtual consultations. I don't really know 100% what it's going to be yet. I love structure. I like knowing that I have to get up and that I have to do these things. So I think I'm going to look forward to it. And I started to really enjoy the morning time. I know 4 a.m. sounds crazy, but I have my coffee ready to go and I do all that. And it really does kind of set the stage for the rest of my day to get up, get myself going before I'm needed by others, and it allows you more time to be present, even though maybe it's less sleep and you can weigh that and sleep till 6 and then get up with your kids. And I'm like, no, I'd rather actually have the time to kind of set my intention, set myself up for more success. Because I feel like when I wake up with them, I am constantly playing catch up on what I'm trying to do, and I need to be out in front of them.
It makes me think of I think it was a meme that was kind of floating around the internet when I was in school, and it said, "You can have a good social life, good sleep, or good grades, but you can't have all three.
Have
So
all three.
pick which one's going to sacrifice." So then the adult version would be, you can have good time with your kids, good sleep, or get your work done. Again, sleep is going to be the one that
I know.
takes the back burner, and that's fine. I do feel that I operate similarly, so that's just
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, how I know you're probably adjusting a little bit more and now being a parent, but how have you found the transition? And like are you enjoying some of the challenges and the new
You
things?
know, I went through a weird phase this week where I kind of felt a little regretful that maybe I jumped back into things too quickly. But then it's tough. It's a double-edged sword because I also feel really good when I'm mentally stimulated and when I'm having good conversations and working on the business. And I don't feel like it's taken away too much time from my time with her. And it's tough
Yes.
because when they're 9 weeks old, like I'm practicing. We're trying to do some tummy time, we're working on tracking and doing the contrast cards, but she sleeps a lot. And so then I'm like, well, I guess I'll go do some stuff. So I'm still trying to figure out the right balance. I want to make sure that I don't jump back into things too quickly. But I did have a morning yesterday where I just was up at 4:50 for some reason and I was wired. I was like, well, I might as well take advantage of this. And I did kind of like what you were saying with your routine, got up, did some reading on the couch, some non-PT related reading, and
Yeah.
had my coffee, and it was just the space and the quiet on my own was really nice, and it was a really good way to start my day because I had a fantastic day after that. So there's a lot to be said about how you start your day, and it doesn't have to be some regimented routine, but just having, even if it's like 20 minutes to yourself, can be huge, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm really fresh off the boat right now.
You will constantly be learning. I couldn't agree more. Uh I don't think it's I don't think she'll be mad at me for saying this. I think Amy is excited about returning to work, but also struggling about being away from the kids a little bit more than she would want to. I think as any parent goes through. And we were talking about something the other day. It's not about the time that you're spending with them, it's about the quality of the time that you're spending with them. That's what they're gonna remember. Yes, they're gonna understand that, as they get older, they're gonna understand a little bit more, you being present and you being not. But I think about someone like my dad who worked a ton, but I know that when he was with us, excuse me, he was 100% present. And I think that it's the parents that are even still with their kids and not 100% present, maybe that's where there can be that improvement. So it's right. You think about it. We can't have everything. If we all couldn't work and hang with our kids, I'm sure that would probably be a lot of people's, choices, unless people really love work. But I, you have to make money. You have to do something. You have to be generating, you have to be generating income, wealth, a life. So just knowing that that is just as important, taking time for yourself to do what you need to do so you can be a better parent is also important. And then when you do show up for your kids, if you can be more invested in them, who cares if it's 30 minutes to 2 hours, it's way better if that 30 minutes is like, all right, let's go have some fun. Like let's engage. That's what they're going to remember.
Yeah, I do. That's funny you say that about your dad working a lot because apparently my dad traveled a lot. He worked for Anheuser-Busch for like 30
Okay.
years and he traveled, he would go for weeks at a time. And I have little to no recollection of this. So he must have done a pretty good job. And my mom was home with all five of us. But when he was home, I guess it was just the best time ever because we always were so excited for when he came home. And yeah, I don't have any feelings of, "Oh gosh, I missed out on all this time with my dad." And I mean, he was gone for weeks at a time. Like, we're just talking a couple hours a day or, some people are gone for the full day and then they drop their kids off and pick them up. So,
Sure.
yeah, I love that. It's the quality, maybe not the quantity, but both are important.
Both are absolutely important, obviously. If you're barely spending any
Yeah.
time with them, that's gonna be tough. But I think that sometimes we can be our harshest critics, and to put extra pressure on ourselves to just be there as much as possible. I think our generation is being super intentional as parents about the time that we're trying to spend with children. There's information out there that says that millennial dads are the most involved out of any previous generation. Honestly, there's been amazing dads in the past. Like there could be a combativeness to saying that and like criticizing the previous
No,
generations
millennials are the
before us.
best, obviously.
Obviously, we're the best. And it, I think it's us recognizing like how important those things are, and I think it's us wanting to be more involved and be more intentional of spending time with our children, and that's really great. Everything we're going to do is we're going to look to the people before us. We're going to take the things that we like and the things that we don't like, and we're going to try to improve on those things. So I do think as a generation, we are being super intentional with the time we're spending with our children. And I think that the way things are work related now with social media, with you're kind of always on, but then you always have your flexibility that we
Mhm.
can have more freedom to be around more than a typical punch the clock 9 to 5. I'm going into the office every day.
Correct.
We don't live that life. Some of us don't live that life anymore, and we can
Yeah.
be around.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I've said it on the podcast before, but the whole reason I started Rehab with Ronnie years ago, what just started as an Instagram handle, then
Yes,
became a business in person, then became a business that allowed me to quit my full-time job. The whole underlying motive there, the entire time, the driving force was the fact that I knew one day I wanted to have kids, and me going into a clinic 50 hours a week wasn't going to cut it because I just wasn't going to get enough time. I knew I would want more time with my kids. So it's cool that we're able to do that and then, supplement also with social media, which I wanted to touch on next because we
sure,
we met on social media.
we did.
JT sent me a DM. I posted I'm going to tell the story.
Go for it.
I posted a story of I think I was talking to the camera and I was wearing the front carrier. And she was I mean, she is little, but this was a few weeks ago. And you're like, "Hey, so sorry. Hate to be this person. I almost didn't send this message, but you should wear it a little higher and like make sure X, Y, and Z, like her head is supported." And that is actually how I found your account. And I was like, first of all, I love unsolicited advice if it's important and like
Thank you.
applicable. So there was absolutely no harm done there. I was like, "Oh, great." And I actually followed you. I appreciated the DM
Yes,
and I love the content that you put out. So
thank you.
anybody that hasn't checked it out, I mean, I'll link it in the show notes, but you put out some really helpful educational videos for parents. So talk about how you got into that.
Yeah, I always wanted to do. Thank you very much for the compliment. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for the DM.
Of course, to honestly swing it, like to bring it back to you, I had been following you for a little bit when I was in the clinic. My employee had followed you and had mentioned he was like, "Do you ever follow, Ronnie? She does these like really fun dances and then like goes into like her exercises and like just has a very has a magnetism on camera that you absolutely bring people in." So by the way, I wanted to compliment you because I think you can make PT videos so boring and cut and dry, or you can do it in the fun way you do and actually bring people in, have some fun with it. Show honestly, you can tell that you have a goofy side that you then bring in your videos. Like I just think that's so cool.
Thank you.
Yes, of course, and I think that there's a lot of work that goes into crafting more of this flexible role that we've both had. And I think in PT school, we're like we never probably pictured this type. I think we're all like, can do this, we can do this, we can kind of craft this new path for us that I definitely never had any I definitely never had any visions of. But you also have to have the right personality to do it, and you have to work hard and separate yourselves. And it's not easy.
Right.
I want to say I love your page too. And
Thank you. I appreciate that.
of course, I got into this because I always wanted to start an educational page. I think there is depths to the amount of information that we can provide as clinicians via social media, that just simple things are going to help parents provide them information that they're looking for, provide them a fun way to engage with their children that also is developmentally appropriate. All these fun things. And I always wanted to do that. The hoops of doing it with not my children was something that I did not want to go down the road of. I feel like it got complicated. So when we had Theo, it was a long conversation that I had with Amy. I was like, look, I really want to do with this. I just want to have some fun. I just want to make some videos with Theo, see what happens, start to educate some people on it. Maybe it'll be fun that I'm a male and you don't really see that very much. Like let maybe get some of that dad stuff in there, because honestly, a lot of people in my space are more stay-at-home moms that are, they're home with their children and then they're, creating content or they're doing things like that. So I started it. It was going it started great. I got lucky with a couple of viral reels that kind of took off, and then it just started snowballing. And I then took that, left my clinic position because I was holding hours working until 8 o'clock at night, 2 days a week. And I'm like, I'm never going to see Theo if I continue with this role. Similar to what you were just saying
Mhm.
about, like, you can't do 50 hours, excuse me, in the clinic and be as present as you want with your family. And so it spun into, okay, let me do the hospital, let me be in the schools, and let me do my job, and let me do my business, and like make sure I had a supportive enough base floor in case things can bottom out. And you never know. There's variability with the social media world and the job. So I then recently, after having Margot, dropped to the schools because now I really needed to be home more, and the flexibility of being the parent who was doing more of the daycare drop-offs, things like that. There's a girl boss and is an amazing where she works at Latham and Watkins, and uh but doesn't have the same flexibility that I have. So someone needs to have some flexibility. So then it kind of went from that into, okay, now I'm just at the hospital doing my thing, and now it's not stay-at-home dad and doing my thing, because that just makes the most sense for us, because financially daycare is a lot of money for two kids.
Mhm.
I am always thankful that I have been able to, for a year and a half now, like really have a business doing something that's so much fun, when it really started out as just a side hustle. Not dissimilar to what you said. I don't have my own space and all that, which is awesome that you have that. But just like, look, I wanted to start this for fun. Let's just kind of see what happens, type of thing. And yeah, that's where it started.
So you post a lot of really good educational content for parents. Like I think even just since following you a few weeks ago, I've learned things. I can imagine your inbox is probably inundated with questions from parents. Like I know I get a lot of questions about injury specific things, hey, I'm post-op ACL or I'm having issues with my hip. But I do feel like the parent demographic and that pool of Instagram users is even more involved and more inquisitive. Do you get a lot of questions? And then how do you field those questions? And I guess what's the most common question? Sorry, that was like 5 questions.
No, that's great. I love it. Okay.
First off,
Most
do you
common
get
question is this normal? And I'm like, yes, that's so hard to answer.
right?
Is this normal? Is my kid delayed? Is this? Yes. I get a lot of DMs asking about those different things. I think there is a natural neuroticism. I think that's a word. There is that neurotic nature with parents, especially first time parents in their
Neuroticism
children's.
is that is the right word.
Thank you very much.
No, I mean, yeah, we're all crazy about it.
Right. We're very in tune to what's happening. Is this normal? And we're focused on it so much that I would tell you that it's more interactive. As a parent myself, you're going to be more worried about what's going on with your kid than yourself. You're going to put off that injury probably. I worked in ortho, like I get it too. Like you would talk to the parents, they'd be like, I have X thousand different things going on. My shoulder injury is going to take the back seat. I'm like, okay,
Correct.
those things don't take the back seat with parents asking about their kids. That is the front seat. And so, yes, you get a lot of questions just asking about, what's typical, what's not, is this normal? How do I help with this? Toe walking, torticollis, just a bunch of different DMs. And they're super interactive. I love I love the followers I have, and I love the people that are active and in the space, because at the end of the day, they're asking those questions which are super hard to answer, but it also means that they're taking the reins and they're trying to actively do something or help, or they're investing in their children, which is the best way to go about it. There is a line in what we do where it could be very easy to get into fear mongering and phrasing things in a way that's going to make parents more concerned about their children's development. And I always try to focus on empowerment versus the fear component, taking control, helping your children, doing these different things, having fun with it versus, oh my God, they're delayed. You need to do this, this, and this. And there is levels to it and it takes nuance. So a lot of times in my DMs, I am actually reassuring people more. I'm like, you know what? It's okay. Look, this, and this. I do offer virtual consultations where I can provide education and information to people that is a little bit more fine tuned to their situation, right? It's not a replacement for physical therapy at all. But if they want more specific information than I'm currently offering on my page or my videos, that's more attuned to their child, then by all means, I will usually give a little bit, right? They'll ask me a question, I'll respond with something to give them. I'm not like immediately being like, let's do this. And then if they continue to inquire, I'm like, you know what? It sounds like you would be an awesome person to do this with me. Let's do this together. And usually most parents kind of bite. So that's I love the DMs because that leads to business for
Right.
me
Those are
and
those are good
helping more
leads for
families.
you.
Those
Yeah.
are great leads. That's what I need. You're
Right.
absolutely right. Those are leads. And sometimes it's just people asking, I'm like, no, this is normal. Like this would be the thing. And the gratitude that then gets brought back, being like, I know you probably get so many messages. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and reassure me. I feel better. It's amazing in this day and age, the type of relationships that you can create online with people and how it actually can be quite trustworthy. I don't think anyone should be taking any medical advice or things like that from us. They should always be going to their doctors. But when you're trying to find a fun way to engage with your child and you've followed myself, someone else in the space for a while, and you've built up a rapport or a relationship with this person, you're super grateful that they then responded to you and they've given you good advice and done that. So that I so appreciate that. Like a parent reached out to me the other day and they're like, I have been following you forever. I haven't messaged you before. I was starting this with my firstborn and now I have a secondborn and I'm taking them through all these same things. And I'm like, that's incredible. Like that, those are the type of messages that like honestly make your day.
That's
That's why
yeah,
you
that's
do
the
what we
kind of
do.
impact you don't foresee coming when you're in physical therapy school. The internet
Yes.
has such powerful reach and it can be such a negative component of your life, but on the flip
Yes.
side, yeah, to your point, I mean, the people that you can reach and the lives you can impact, and it's the silent followers too. Like the messages that you get where you've been doing stuff for years and they finally decide to reach out and thank you for something that you helped them with way back in the beginning. It's very rewarding. I love that part of it. So I'm curious a little bit more about the virtual consult. So not technically physical therapy, but more so
Definitely. Yep.
you're walking people through, this is typical developmental milestones, this is what you should be expecting, that type of thing? Or what does the structure look like?
Yeah, so it's, the variability of why people are reaching out to me and inquiring, it can be different. Yeah, I want to state this again because it is very important. It is not a replacement for physical therapy because it can't, because we have to be licensed where we're treating, and it's
Correct.
not that, right? Like I know it's not that, and I make sure people are aware. And honestly, some of my DMs are, hey, I think there's a little more going on here. Where are you located? Let me help you find something that's near you that is actually going to be some like that people can help you, right? Like that's
Right.
some of what I'm doing. I'm a liaison to help people because I would much rather people go to the correct pediatric place versus an ortho that's like, I do tort. And I'm like, you don't really do tort. I'm like, right, I would rather do that and help people to the right places. So, a lot of times I'm struggling working on this thing. Can you show me some exercises? My kiddo is not rolling this way. Like, how would you help? And I'm like, well, you could try this. It's all information that honestly, because of now how online we are, is all available. Like you can find it. I'm not reinventing the wheel with some of my things. Most of us aren't. The information's there. It's just our unique flair of how we're doing it and presenting it.
Mhm.
And if I can direct them in a way of it's like, okay, try this and then awesome. know, they try this, they do this exercise, they have fun. Oh, this is a way I can engage with my kiddo. Awesome. It's all pre-limit, like it's like I said, I'm trying to say it right. If they need more, I'm like, nope, you should go somewhere. But it maybe provides a little bit of direction for someone who thinks their child is delayed, but maybe they're not qualifying for early intervention and they just need a little bit of support. Or I do sometimes roadmaps with families, which is I meet once a month and they're like, what should I expect gross motor wise over the next month? And I say, okay, well, you should expect this, this, and this. This is the exercises you can do to kind of help with that, right? There's nothing wrong with telling people that you can try this with your child. And I'm always making sure, like, talk to your pediatrician, make sure that like your child is good to go. There's nothing else that's possibly happening
Yeah.
from a liability perspective, of course. And then the people roll with it and they find it super beneficial. It's like a more interactive reading what would happen with your gross motor milestone book in a way, kind of,
Right.
right?
And you've built trust and you've fostered good
Yes.
relationships with these people online. So they might think, okay, yeah, I know I can already get this stuff online or I already have this book, but I like JT's approach and I want to hear
Yes.
his opinions on this and his hot takes and his different flair, for lack of a
Right.
better word. Yeah. So I
No,
like
that's
that. I
great.
think that's pretty cool. So that is kind of the main side of your business. And then you also are, it looks like, probably bringing in some income just from social media as a whole, correct?
Trying. It
Trying.
definitely
Some
has its
partnerships.
challenges.
Yeah.
I To be fully transparent, just started on TikTok. I did not want to be on TikTok initially, and people were
Dude,
probably like, "Your
same.
kids are already online. Like,
Mhm.
what does it matter?" And I don't know. I was just like, I'm okay with them Instagram, and then they were like, "Their footprint's the footprint." Because at the end of the day, also have to keep the privacy, the safety of my kids and they're like all over the internet. Now it's been to be a little vulnerable here. Like Amy and I have had conversations where it's like, what are we going to tell the kids when they're going to find out that there's videos of them online? And I'm going to say, I'm hoping that we are fostering relationships with our children well enough to let them know that mommy and daddy, particularly daddy, was educating and helping families doing these things. And I hope that they're like, that's so cool. Like, wait, I got to help that person. Like, I can't wait to tell because Theo's gonna be the older one, right? So I can't wait to tell Theo that like he helped all of these people because he was the one demonstrating the exercises to then do that. I'm
That's such a
hoping it's
beautiful way to look at it too.
thank you.
I think that's great, and they're not embarrassing videos. It's,
No,
videos of them
no,
as children.
right, right.
And daddy started his own business, which is huge, and that's a really good example to set, don't you think?
I completely agree, and it helps to support them. Like Theo and Margot are both technically my employees. Like you know what I mean? Like it's a good way to support them, and a family business type of thing. I'm trying on social media affiliations. I'm starting to get into doing more videos for different companies, which is fun, and I would love to do that more because that's a great way to do something, and then it's less time consuming than some of the other work that I kind of do, and then that's a great way to be a stay at home dad and also be doing my business on the side. If I'm able to do videos like that, I'll be shooting Magnetic Me video, the pajama brand soon, and
Oh,
things like that.
nice.
Yes, so I'm trying to do more of those things beyond just I'm involved with some of the gross motor classic ones like Upsy and honestly, oh my god, I'm totally blanking now. I'm involved with some of the gross motor my sneakers. Like I have 10 Little and Sekai Run. Like I love my relationship with them. And that's a big component of my business. The consults kind of ebb and flow. And
Sure.
that's a little bit more of the steady part of it. So
Yeah,
I
and I
would
also think parents are great consumers if it's, how can I say this in a I don't mean this in a, like, we need to target them, but if you have a product that you as a pediatric physical therapist genuinely recommend, parents that really care are gonna listen to you and be positively affected by the content that you put out if it's for a brand that you actually believe in. So I think that's a good space to be in, like the parent, child, baby, developmental
yes.
milestone space to be in. I think there's a lot out there that you can choose from, and hopefully the right brands find you and can work with you because it can be pretty lucrative. I mean, we were just talking about my brother before we started recording, who, was a full-time accountant for years, and then his wife was doing Instagram deals, and he was able to quit his job because she was able to support them. And then he said, you know what?
Awesome.
I don't want to just watch the kids. I want to make my own content. And then here he is doing it full time and making money. So it can be a great revenue generator. Um,
Absolutely.
you just kind of have to figure out your own take on it and how it's going to work into your content. And I think it can be kind of fun. Time for a quick little ad break so I can talk about my one and only most favorite application when it comes to business, the Jane app. Jane is a clinical management software, and I like to call it a one-stop shop for everything you need to get your clinic started. And this doesn't just apply to physical therapists. Anybody that is in the patient care realm can use the Jane app and transform their business with it, just like I did. I use Jane on a daily, maybe I would even say hourly basis, from scheduling my patients, processing payments, running reports, reaching out to patients, sending automated text reminders and email reminders about appointments, taking virtual rehab coaching and mentoring calls through the Jane app, and honestly, so much more. Jane is there for you. They do everything with you, and it feels like I have a coworker with me when I'm using Jane every day. Lucky for you listeners, I now can give you a 2-month grace period with my code RonniePT2MO. That's all caps RONIPT number 2 capital M capital O.
It can be. I am very much trying to keep things focused in my content of either being gross motor or dab, right? Like that's my lanes, and that's, excuse me, that's what I'm gonna say.
Those are great
I
lanes.
try, thank you. I try to make sure that when I'm, promoting a product, I think audiences are smart and are aware that that's a way we make money, and that's how we can put out free content is by doing things like that. I
Mhm.
think if you do it in a way that's not super pitchy, that's built into kind of organically what you're doing. When I'm trying to do product advertisement or sneakers, I'm talking about the education, why sneakers are important, why the right ones are important. Or with my gross motor games, I'm like, look, these are 3 things you can do with this game.
Right,
This is an
exactly.
awesome way to support it, right? And as long as you're doing that, that's really great. And then like some of the dad life things, hopefully maybe people like my aesthetic or like something, and that's easy enough to kind of stay organically in my lane as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And that helps you when you line out your lanes and you figure out kind of what your pillars are, then it's easy to know what to say no to and what to say yes to, because
Yeah.
I'll get emails like, "Hey Ronnie, we'd love for you to promote our Amazon foot massager." And I'm like, that's like, you could argue that that's sort of in the lane, but like we're probably veering off to the side, hitting the guardrails. So don't think it
Totally.
really works.
And you don't want to inundate your followers with unnecessary recommendations, because then it devalues the ones that you're actually making that you maybe even stand
Correct.
behind more. And you
Correct.
want to be intentional with what you're providing to your audience, and not just saying yes to something, because you're right. There is that level of trust that people have built following you. And the reason they're open to this product is because you've given the stamp of approval on it.
Yep.
It's it's pretty cool, but you want
Exactly.
to make sure you're doing the right thing and giving people still the right information. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun walk to learn to walk, but we're doing it
Yes.
together.
Agreed.
As we established before, I am a new mom. Gemma is 9 weeks old tomorrow. Yay.
It's
By the time
exciting.
this podcast comes out, I don't know, she'll be older, but I'm sure, like you were saying before, a lot of the people that reach out are first-time parents. Can you talk a little bit about some of the more common concerns that they are coming to you with?
Totally.
You mentioned torticollis, and you mentioned
Yes.
developmental delays, but, like, more specifically, and we can
Okay.
and I would love to touch on the baby wearing too because, like, I wanna
Great.
learn from you with that, but yeah,
Great.
what are people coming to you mostly with, and where do you direct them?
Most of the common questions are, you could probably lump it into struggles with prone play and prone activity and play on the floor, tummy time.
I'm so glad you said that because
Good.
yesterday I tried to do some tummy time, like, we will do it with me declined on the couch a little bit,
Yep.
and she's fine. The second I try to put her on her little playmat, the hardest I've ever heard her cry in her life. And it's very difficult for me to keep her there, because I'm like, she's distressed. So, yeah, talk about that.
Try an exercise ball.
Okay. I do have one.
Figured you would. Try an exercise ball and change the variability of the angle of where you're putting Gemma. So for example, the ball itself is going to constantly be providing surface input to Gemma, which is
Mhm.
great because that's what you're looking for. Anytime a baby is weight bearing through a component of their body, they're strength training because they are molds of clay and they're being formed as we go. So when you use the roundedness of the ball, it's going to be a really great way to provide full body input and doing all that fun stuff. And then what you can do is rock her over the top to get her into a more parallel, flatter position, but the other side of the ball is coming down. So if you want to put spinners, if you want to put something, let's say you're doing it maybe in front of your couch, you drop the toy, and this is bad podcasting because I'm explaining it to you, but I'm going to try to explain it. So if the couch is lower than the ball and Gemma is above it, then you could put a mirror underneath. So now she's prone, but she's looking down. So it's not as hard on the head, and you can work on endurance of the Gemma being in the prone. And then when she gets tired, you don't have to pull her out of the position. You just rock her back into a more incline, but you're still now weight bearing. So you're still getting all that awesome prone play, not dissimilar to how she's pitched back on you when you're declined. And you could do that. And then you can come over. You can bounce on the ball. You can have a little fun. This was one of my first viral videos. And that's why I know that it's really helpful information for parents because they really took it and ran with it. I use exercise balls all the time to help improve tolerance to tummy time because you can change it up. It's also really good on our backs for us PTs who are constantly thinking about our positioning and not always being on the floor with our kids. It's nice to kind of bring them to us. So the tolerance. So I hope that helps, by the way.
100%. And it kind of sounds cute too. Like I'm just
It
picturing
is
her,
so cute.
picturing her on my big blue ball.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, flip her so that she's coming to you. And like you go like do it in that way, and where
Aw.
your hands are on the back. Yeah, you're gonna have fun with this.
Yeah.
Or the mirror. A lot of times I'll do that, right? If you got a nice floor length mirror, you can do it that way. And that's honestly the most common question I'm getting. Tummy time is something that's been pushed since the 90s due to back to sleep and the safe sleep program. And we have to be more intentional about the time that we're putting our children on their backs, on their bellies, things like that, because of plagiocephaly, head shape, those different things where now children are more container bound and spending more time. We are in a more hectic life and we move more and like we're doing more of that. There's less free play than we would really want. So that's why we have to be so intentional. But many times it's parents inquiring, why is it so hard? What can I do? How can I help? They don't want to hear their kid cry, especially first-time parents. Second-time parents are maybe a little more comfortable with it. They've gone through they know the ropes. And so they're asking about different things to do, or they're like, I hate to say this, but some parents are doing things incorrectly and jumping the gun on milestones. And they're so excited to get to the next stage. We're not allowing that full development to move forward. I want to do a video coming up here talking about how it's not really great to stand your 4-month-old baby, even though they're going to respond and stand because of a positive support reflex. That's not their muscles. That's a reflex that's helping them stand up. But if you then support that by putting them in an activity center when they're 4 months old, they're going to feed into extensor-based patterns that are going to keep them upright, and they're not actually going to be able to flex and move transitionally, move from seated to prone. So many times these kids learn to be happy sitters because they're very comfortable here. They can see the world. They now hate tummy time because if they get put on their stomach, that's so much harder to look up and out at people. And they become a happy sitter who just hangs out here. Oh, you're going to bring me that toy? Awesome. I'm going to hang here and I'm never going to explore outside of my base of support. And many times that leads to a lot of gross motor delays.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I would tell you that the challenges of tummy time and happy sitters and all that comes with it, extensor based patterns. You'll honestly now you're going to see it more too, because I'm sure you're going to have a good eye from all of your PT background. You're going to see those kids that are like very extension based. They have a difficult time moving through flexion. Those are the two most common questions, Ronnie, that I get. And then kind of what comes, like everything kind of funnels down from that. And ways that you can help support families into navigating those spaces of making prone play a little bit more fun or facilitating them to move outside of being that happy sitter, because then those happy sitters are 9 months old and they're not crawling and they start to pull to stand and they're trying to skip crawling, and we know all the benefits of crawling and we don't want to skip crawling, and now they're 9 months old and the parent is now standing them, but they never learned how to transition from seated to prone to stand and going
Sure.
up through that movement pattern. And now it's just, okay, cool, I can be placed where I need to. But those kids can then only go so far and they wind up being delayed in walking because now they can't move outside their base of support. So I'm not trying to be critical of parents because we're all just doing the best job that we can and we're going through it and figuring it out. But sometimes we steal the struggle. We place them in positions either earlier without making them work for it before they're ready. And it does feed into some more immature movement patterns. And children are very smart. They pick up on these things very quickly, and they will opt for, children are not lazy, they will opt for the easier way out because they're smart. Why would I want to work harder when I can be here and interact? Because that's all they want to do. They want to interact with you. Why would I want to be on my belly when I could be sitting very comfortably and see everybody around me and have so much fun doing that? And
Right.
sorry, long-winded answer, but those are the
No.
two most common questions I get.
No, that was great. I was really hoping that we could talk through some of that because
Yes.
I just only being in this new parent space for several weeks have been wondering about some of that. And I also wonder what your take is on the just gender differences and how you hit those developmental milestones. And this thought came to me when I was at a party over the weekend. Everybody brought their babies. It was like one of those, we're watching football, but there's 75 kids running around. And there was a girl there who is 11 months old running, like she was running around. And her mom was just saying, I'm terrified of her. I don't know. She hit these milestones so quick and she is just more advanced. And not to say that girls are better than boys, but the general consensus is maybe sometimes boys take a little bit longer to hit those milestones, but obviously there are variations from the average in any situation. Is that something that you have found? And do you get questions about that?
It actually, I hate to shoot that down, but it's actually not a question I get a lot.
No, shoot it down because I couldn't. I mean, this is anecdotal evidence, right? This is just me
Yeah,
observing one thing at one party.
it can be the case sometimes. I would tell you Theo is more advanced than Mario at the same stage of the game. Like Theo was a little bit more in front, and I don't think people should compare their children for comparison's sake. I think people should compare their kids to keep things like moving in the right direction. I know that's like, it's again, fine line. So sometimes you'll see it more with females. Sometimes are a little smaller than males. But that's not always the case either.
True.
So when they're smaller, if they're strong and active, it will naturally be a little easier to go through things. Your baby is not going to be lazy because they're big, but just like anatomically and physiologically speaking, if your child is bigger, it takes more effort to move and it takes more effort. So things might be a little harder, and maybe they need to be supported like that. But um, there's not as much gender differences. I find that anything that's bankable, that would be like research. It's honestly more anecdotal. What is the interesting thing that is same church, different pew type of thing is order of when children are born and how they hit their milestones in the family is an interesting variable.
Talk about that.
So, not that anything is black or white. I feel like second borns, for the most part, are can more easily become happy sitters depending on the disposition of the older children, because sometimes they try to help out more with the baby than they probably should. So when that baby starts to sit, they start to bring them toys because they want to interact and have fun with them. And I honestly do a lot of education when I'm doing my physical therapy with families of like, you actually want to discourage them against bringing every toy to your second born because they're not going to help them want to explore outside their base of support.
Mm,
But at the same time, those second born sometimes are like ahead of the game because they're seeing all of their older siblings do something. So that's a terrible answer, and everything is so nuanced and depends in our career
exactly.
and what we do. But I do find that while both outcomes are common, if you then dive into it more and talk to the family, again, anecdotally, this is not research stuff. If you find out that like, oh yeah, no, my kid wasn't as interactive and was more running around the kid, maybe that child is now faster, trying to keep up with my older siblings. You get a really nurturing older sibling, male, female. A lot of times it's like an older sister tends to be a little more nurturing sometimes, where sometimes the boys are a little bit more crazy, but you get both sides. Theo's honestly kind of very nurturing. I could see him being someone who's going to bring something to Margot all the time. He tries to bring her pacifier, right? So maybe they're bringing something, and then when you dive into the conversation with the family, you say, well, were the older siblings or were you guys bringing something to the second child a ton? And the answer is yes. And then maybe that is not supporting their gross motor development as much as the first. You also then have I don't have as much time with my second as I do my
Right.
first
That's
or
what
my
I was
third
thinking.
with my, yep. Maybe I'm baby wearing more, which we can dive into and do that. Or I just don't have the same resources. Now all of a sudden your day is divided up differently. So it's interesting to see development from in order of like when the babies are being born, more so I think than the different sexes.
Yeah, okay. That's good. That definitely clarifies the question, and I'm trying to remember even where I heard that. Maybe it's online, you hear all
Maybe,
kinds of things
maybe.
online, but it's just so case by case because
Yes.
I have 3 brothers. They were all completely hit their milestones at regular times, so there's really
Sure.
no I don't think there's any association, but it is interesting what the internet will tell you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
speaking of people telling people stuff on the internet,
Yes.
what are some of the biggest issues you see or just corrections you would make with baby wearing?
People wear babies too low. They wear babies too low. They flip their kid out to be world facing too early, and the type of carrier choice. I can be critical of this because guess what? I did some of these things too. So when going into Margot coming, I was like, AIM, we're an active adventuring family. We're on the go all the time. We're going to be baby wearing Margot more than we did with Theo, because the ease of a firstborn is you don't need to baby wear as much unless that's really like your cup of tea and that's something you want to do. The carrier I used was fine. There are more hip healthy options than the first one that I used. I'm not going to call it out. And knowing about the position and the hip healthy thing and doing more chest carrying, you can flip them out, but it's not really when they have head control. It's when you want their hips to be more engaged, honestly, and along the same lines of sitting independently. There are also some people that don't believe it's actually good at all for their spine or their hips to be world facing. And I'm just going to kind of provide all of the information. So some of those will say face carry and then back carry. There's nuance to it. I think, honestly, anything in moderation is going to be okay. There's nothing you're going to be doing to your child unless you're wearing them all day, which in some cultures they do, that you're really going to be messing with a lot of the anatomical position. Side note, it's not dissimilar from us versus Europe. We change how we facilitate milestones. Europeans do not sit their children before they start to push themselves up into sitting. So sitting for them more often happens around 9 months. For us, it more happens around 6 months.
Hmm,
There is a slight difference in how we're facilitating them. They believe that and this is, again, I'm painting with a broad brush here, of they don't think that you should be sitting their child before they're pushing themselves into sitting. What we say is that those planes don't operate independently of each other, and you could work on strengthening upright to help with prone and to do that.
mm,
But by definition, they probably avoid some of those happy sitters a little bit more because their kids are not being sit up earlier, right? Again, nothing that you're really doing unless you're really wearing them a ton. In moderation, things are going to be okay. But the most common things that I will see is baby wearing too low. You want to be able to kiss the top of their head, and facing out someone who is too young. And if you see that baby is like very fidgety facing out in a worldview, they're likely not ready for that yet, because that fidget is them trying to right their body in the right spot, and they just don't have the same volitional fluid control that you would want to see of someone who is, honestly, think about every step you're taking is a little bounce back and forth on that child, and they
mhm.
have to be able to stabilize themselves, not just their head but the rest of their body. So if they're not, they're going to be more fidgety because that's their quick response to the step and the change in perturbation. So flip them into you, let them hang out here a little bit more, and then expose them to the world in other ways. But really, it's the low and the head support, where sometimes the heads are dropping and doing that. And it's something I've been a little bit more attuned to now is the full covering of the head. I was always aware of it, but like how low you want to go, you really don't want to cover their ears. I honestly have to credit my really good friend Jordan, who I think I shared her page with you. She has really helped me a lot learn about baby wearing. She has so much information on it. And
What's her username for people?
the baby wearing OT, I think Jordan is unbelievable at what she does. And
Okay,
she actually gave a consultation to Amy and myself when diving into different carrier options available to us. I had only used a carrier with Theo. I now have used ring slings, wraps. I used a wrap with Theo, but not as long. I use wraps, ring slings, different variations of carriers. Like I have 6 of them now, and I honestly mix them through, and I'm baby wearing all the time.
awesome.
I'm so much more comfortable with it than my oldest, and I can contribute that to a lot. And I feel like the baby wearing community is super welcoming to people who want to learn more about it because you aren't given a handbook. This is something we kind of talked about before.
Yeah, no, mine was literally a hand-me-down. I was like, I guess I just kind of clip this here and put this here and I don't know.
And you're like, oh, they feel supported. It's cool. And it's like, oh, wait, no, we're like real low and we're like scrunched. And if you baby wear right, it actually can facilitate gross motor milestone development because it makes them a little more active when they're sleeping. Of course, they're sleeping, but it can make them a little more active. So it can actually be a tool in your toolbox to be promoting some gross motor development because it's healthy baby wearing. It gets them upright and that stuff. And honestly, it allows you to bring your second baby, your third baby around your older ones more, and then they get more exposure to the cool things that your older kids are doing versus being stuck in a stroller off to the side and
Right.
things like that. So
Yeah.
I think baby wearing is such a cool tool, and now you'll know and you'll see. I think it was probably like coming out of PT school when we started to talk about gait and all that stuff more, like everybody you saw was walking probably poorly when you were like walking down the street, and it was just like something that now it's an occupational hazard. We see all these poor walking patterns. You'll see baby wearing and you'll be like, I wish they were doing that a little bit better because it's honestly everywhere.
Yes, it is. It is. I told you,
And
yeah,
you're like,
my
I wish they were
husband,
doing that higher.
after
Yeah.
we had that conversation, I was like, Adam, you're not wearing that appropriately. Let me tell you.
Right.
So, yeah, just spreading the knowledge is, I mean, knowledge is power. So I'm happy to have
Absolutely.
learned about it. And yeah, I think more people should know. So I'm glad that we chatted on it.
Me too.
Before we close up,
Sure.
I mean, obviously you are super educational online. Where can people find you? Or if they're interested in scheduling one of those virtual consults, where can they do that?
Oh, awesome. It's Doscher is my Instagram. It used to be JT the Peds PT, so if people have heard of that, that's why. I changed it to be a little bit easier to find, and it's www.jtthepedspt.com. We'll have the information that talks about how I can provide some resources to families and things like that. So that we'll have the information on the consults and such. Same name on TikTok. I should probably start to get more comfortable saying that, of the JT.Doscher for Instagram and TikTok. And we'll see. I'm trying to get into YouTube. We'll see if that happens. There's only so much time in the day, but
True.
that's right now where you can find me. And then honestly, the website, I need to update some pictures on it because now Margot needs to get in the mix more on there. But it has the information is all on there and it's all good for people to find. And then honestly, for product recommendations and things like that for those endorsements, I have the link tree, which you can find on both social media and on my website. If you're just looking for pediatric PT approved shoes, toys, different things like that, there is so much out there. We're inundated with products. Some of those are good, some of those are not good. So people don't have to follow it, but if you want the kind of stamp of approval, not like we know everything, but we do know some things about that, please, you can always look to that stuff too.
Okay, cool. I've got two final questions for you. Normally I finish with just the one, but I'm going to give you two and I'll give them to you back to back.
Great.
The first one is not the common one that I give everybody. First off, to new parents, if you could tell them anything, like what is one thing you wish more new parents knew and were aware of? We'll start there.
Stop transitioning your child. Let them do it themselves. Such a simple thing. Easiest one, easiest example. You're doing tummy time, roll them in and out of tummy time every time, instead of picking them up and placing them, picking them up and doing that.
Oh, okay.
If you roll them in and out, they will get comfortable. They shouldn't be doing it at the age that you can do it. Like you can do it if you support them right. Like you can do it days being home. They're not rolling for months. But if you're taking them through that, all of a sudden they're just now more comfortable with that. That's a lot of vestibular input. That's proprioceptive input. They're moving through the planes and like so that when they go to start to do it themselves, they are now familiar with the pattern of rolling. What does that feel like? How does my body respond?
That is so smart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're going to do it anyway. It takes zero time for you. Instead of my baby's on their belly, they start getting upset. You just flip them out, then you pick them up. Like just something so simple as that. It gets more into detail. Like right, if we're doing kneeling play and having fun doing that, or if we're working into our belly from sitting, make them go through sitting to prone. Don't just pick them up and place them on their belly. All of those transitions are learning opportunities for your child to move through different planes than they are used to. There's static work that they're comfortable doing and the dynamic work of moving through all these different planes. I would argue that while our developmental milestones are mostly going to be like obviously crawling and walking. They're not static, but they're final entities. It's not about the transition. Pulling to stand is a transition that we have. Um, the one that more readily recognized. We have functional outcome measures that are going to look at sitting to prone and prone to sitting and all of that stuff. That is not something the traditional parents are looking at. I'm not like, oh, my kid went sitting to prone by 6 months. That's great. That's on track. Or 7 months, or that's probably a little early, 6 months, more 7. Those are the things that we're aware of that parents aren't. But if you don't transition your kids and you let them do it, a lot of people use the terminology of don't steal the struggle. I've said that as well. It doesn't have to be a struggle, but don't steal that learning opportunity for them to just go through something that's so simple that you're already doing. Take the time to let them work through that themselves. Parents want to know, how do I like let my kid kind of do their thing? That let them learn how to move through those different things so that they can move in and out of these developmental positions very comfortably, and it leads into fostering their future development. So that's the biggest thing. I'm sorry, Ronnie, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off
I was
there.
going to say, I'm just glad I asked you, because I don't think that it seems so simple, but I don't think it's that intuitive as a parent, at least not for me. I definitely have not been doing that. So I'm excited I'm going to go downstairs after this and be like, okay, tummy time. And we're going to roll out of it. Let's go.
I love it. That's so great. So that would be the best advice, because I do think, like you said, it's not always intuitive. We don't always think of it, and sometimes when I'm doing like, I'm doing the consults and we're like talking through an exercise, or when I'm working with a parent and like I'm giving them a home exercise program in the clinic or whatever, they'll do it and then they'll pick them up and they'll be like, ah, shoot. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it every time. It doesn't have to be perfect. But even just that like a little voice in the back of your head that like does that, it will become second nature. And then you'll start to do it all the way through. And it will just become intuitive for you to do that with your child.
I love it. Final question. If you could go back to your physical therapy school self and give yourself one singular piece of advice, what would it be?
That's the one you ask everybody, which is a great question.
You listen to the
You have on great
podcast. Good
guests.
on you.
Yes. Yes. Stop trying to have a 5-year plan. Stop trying to figure out where you're going, where you're going to wind up. An opportunity. I know you asked PT, but I'm going to bring it to myself. The first job I had, the clinic was not making as much money as they should, and they transitioned me to another branch of the outpatient orthopedic place that was a farther drive. Like, rocked me. I went 2 days a week. Looking back on that now, I'd be like, dude, why are you even sweating that? Like, you should not be overthinking that stuff. So if you go into PT school and you think about where do you think you're going to be, first of all, I would have never had the answer that I'm going to be where I am now. I would have told you I was always going to work in pediatrics, but I think the coolest part of our job, our career, is we can do so many different things that most people are not even aware of. We can work in all of these different settings. We can do this stuff. Be open to all of it, which I was, which is why I liked neuro. I liked peds. I wasn't as open to wound care personally. Like I didn't love all of them, but I was open to all of them. But then taking that and being like, people always ask me like, do you think you're going to open up your own practice? I would be like, no. That's not dissimilar from what I have now. I'm running my own business. Like, I didn't think I was going to do that. So just don't try to plan too much ahead, because I think have a very, like, and if you're that type of person, don't let me discourage you from that, but don't have it so set in stone, because opportunities are going to come about that you're just too good to pass up. And be fluid, because I think that's actually how we can better ourselves in our career versus being like, I'm working with one company. I've been there for 10 years. I'm going up through the ranks. I think it's more helpful to jump. You'll get better money for doing that. Like you'll move and be open to the different flexibility, because it'll make you more well-rounded as a therapist. You have to be more open to all that change. But I think I've changed my job 5 times, and I've been working for 7 to 8 years. Like, you're going to change a lot. Be open to that change.
Yeah. Normalize not having a set in stone 5-year plan, 100%. Because I feel like that's an ancient question that people ask. What's your 5-year plan? I don't think you really can have one. There's no way to know what opportunities are going to arise. It's nice to have some semblance of like a structure of what you think it might look like. But if you follow this very strict plan, you might not open yourself up to opportunities that could come about. Because I don't think
absolutely
either of us would be in the situation that we are if we had followed a 5-year plan. And I never have had one. I don't even have like a 1-year plan.
That's fair.
Yeah, we're just winging it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do, because we're doing things that 10 years ago was not as much of a thing. I talked to my cousin and I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. He's a little more tech savvy. He helped me create my website and all that stuff. And I'm like, how do you know how to do this? Like, when did you learn this in school? He's like, dude, you think I learned this in school, man? He's like, I'm learning this all on the fly.
Mm.
Like, the world is constantly changing, and the ability to be able to access people and provide information constantly changing. So if you go by, you have to have some sort of plan, but you can't have it set in stone and just be able to be that flexible, because then you can adjust so much more easily on the fly.
Yep, 100%. I
Totally.
agree. I appreciate you so much for coming on. I know I learned. I think other people have learned as well. All the listeners are going to appreciate it. So, yeah, just thank you for all your expertise. This has been a good one.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for continuing to educate people on your platform. And thanks for paving the way with honestly awesome energy. You can feel it through, like I said earlier, through your videos, through your podcast, and things like that. So thank you for having me, and thanks for doing
You're
what you do.
so sweet. Thank you for saying all that nice stuff about me, man. Gassing me up right before we finish. All righty. Well, until next time.
Yes, absolutely.